Hello, Ilonka.
Hello, Sari.
Welcome to the Intact Academy podcast. This is the start of a new series celebrating our 40 years on the market. As you know, we do both the training of coaches and consultants, and we help businesses innovate. So I thought to celebrate that, I really want to invite the people I've met along the way, the people I love and who have something to say which I think is brilliant, to talk about their passions and their triumphs and their tribulations along the path of change. So we've known each other for quite a while, I think probably about 20 years now,
Yeah,
something
I think
like
so.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
We met in Budapest, and I know you as a very successful entrepreneur with many different businesses. But at the moment, I know you're an impact venture capitalist at Rubio, and you've just won a prize, I understood,
Yes, just won a prize.
for the social innovation.
Yeah, women in sustainable finance.
Fantastic. So we're just going to have a talk about who you are and something about your experiences with change and what you've learned from it. So that's a bit of the agenda. But perhaps you'd like to start with saying something about who you are today.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's first of all great pleasure. Of course, our journeys crossed quite often, which is wonderful, and happy to celebrate 40 years, which is also a big achievement. I'm also 40 years in business right now, so that is so I started working very young. I'm half Hungarian, half Dutch. I have a writer as a husband, three fantastic sons, also finding their ways in life and doing every 7 years, something different. So I'm an expert in change.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about, so that's great. So, how did you start in business? Because you started very young, Ilonka.
I started quite young. My first job was not in my own business. Was really as a lawyer at a big law firm. It was already very entrepreneurial because I started for Clifford Chance an office in Budapest in the beginning of the 90s after the fall of the Iron Curtain. And that was of course a very exciting time. So I only had one job which was an employment, and even in that job I tried to find everything which was entrepreneurial and not doing my job as a lawyer.
But you learned this from your family. You come from an entrepreneurial family.
Yeah, I think I come from a very entrepreneurial family. Everybody is an entrepreneur. My father, of course, a refugee from Hungary. He fled the country in '56. So it was very clear from our upbringing that you have to make the most out of it, but that you also need to keep your freedom at any times. And where can you keep your freedom at any times the best is being an entrepreneur.
Being your own boss.
Yeah, being your own boss.
So, what happened in the law firm, Ilonka?
I had a fantastic time, I must say, and it was very international and very clever people around me. And I just thought that I didn't want to become a partner because it's 24/7 working hours. I was starting a family. The profession itself is amazing, but you need to be very detailed oriented. I'm not. I'm too interested in too many things at the same time to be able to focus. So I even think that I was not even the greatest lawyer, but I was commercially quite capable. So that's why I thought let's move in another direction.
And what did you achieve in your 7 years? I guess it's 7 years.
Yeah, it was 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. And then I thought, well, I want to start my own law firm and then only do the transactions because I was an M&A, only do the transactions and the clients I like. And that was a fantastic, yeah, and there's merger and acquisitions. So, and that was great fun because you are in the lead. They're smaller transactions, more family-oriented businesses to whom I could also really relate very well because I'm also grew up in a family business. So that was a very good match. But then I had, after a few years, another idea, which was more around, freedom to work as a lawyer, for women and men, especially for women, I thought, but men also loved it. So I started Legal Flex Force, which is an interim recruiter and also for project work for lawyers. And that was very new at the time.
So what year are we talking about?
That's a very good one. I always mix up years. I think it was 91. Yeah. No, it was not 91. It's 97.
97. Okay.
Yeah, it was in 97, and that was fantastic. I must say it was not easy because I was with small kids and working and setting up a business. It's not something I would recommend to other women when they're giving birth and starting businesses at the same time. But yeah, it was very mission driven because I also wanted to give work to very capable lawyers who didn't fit into the standard law firm or standard legal jobs. So the group and the community we built was exceptional.
So this was still in Hungary.
This was in the Netherlands. This was Legal
So
Flex.
you went back to the Netherlands, you set this up.
Yeah,
Actually,
I was back in the Netherlands. I set this up and
for people like you,
for
really.
people like, yeah, so it's a very good idea to set up a business where you're yourself the target group. That's one of the lessons.
Yes,
So
you know
because
your
you have the network, I knew all the lawyers with whom I did the training. I knew other law firms because I worked with other law firms. So your clientele is completely obvious, and also the group you relate with was also my group, so myself. So, and I think very hard in the beginning because to get the first clients and everything, but and also to place the first interim lawyers. Yeah, but we built also with I hired a few very great people, and we had a fantastic team. I think it was a fantastic team who made the business so successful.
a fantastic team, but you created the team. So is there anything you learned from that period about creating great teams?
It's funny that you talk about it because I was thinking about it last week, and people asked me about it, and I said, well, if you are starting a business, you only hire people who you would like to invite at your home, so where you almost would like to spend your holiday with. That was one of my criteria. And in a start of a business, you need to be very agile. You need to be very resilient. So I was always asking, about setbacks in their lives, so that you have that you are if you don't get a big project or things don't turn out or you have to change direction as a small firm, you people need to move with you as a team. And not question why and how and become miserable. That's not what you want. So you need a bit edgy people, as I call it, in the beginning phase of a firm. If you start something.
Yes, people who are agile and also willing to innovate and to experiment.
Yeah, and also to take risk, because they're joining you. You're a small business. Small businesses can also be out of business very soon. And still, you have a certain category of people who love this and who thrive because you have much more freedom. You need to do much more tasks. Your role is not so well defined in the beginning. So that's you're looking for people who can handle that freedom, can handle the responsibility, and are great fun.
And we have to say, in '97, that wasn't the norm. It is nowadays with generation X, Y, Z, and etc. But then it was a very new form of working, and certainly in the legal firms.
Yeah.
So how did you convince your clients to take you on? Because your clients also never heard of this.
No, and well, they thought but yeah, it was it was not so difficult to get them in because you speak the same language. You know what the problem is. They also have too much work, which is better that's being executed upon than having other people overworked or not doing the work. So you convince your clients always with a return on investment, of course, because that's not so difficult. That's more the boring part. But then if you're also able to understand their culture and the chemistry and that you have a feeling what kind of personalities fit, the culture of your client, then you have something which is really a match, I think. Yeah, so there was trust, I think. If you have trust with, it's a matter of trust. If clients trust you, they want to try you out, and if it's successful, they will just expand the
They
project.
both of you work.
Yeah, yeah.
You had that business 97, another 7 years?
No, 4 or 5 years, and then an acquirer knocked on my door. It was not. I must say, I was on the edge of not being able to handle it. But I didn't tell anybody because it grew so. It was quite a big enterprise with 100 people, 3 offices
In 5 years.
in 4 years, and market leader, a fantastic revenue, extremely profitable. I was not thinking about selling it, but then somebody knocked on the door. An American company inviting me for drinks at a cafe thing, serious. But I'm always in for meeting people, especially if they're giants in the industry. So I was more thinking perhaps we can do a partnership or so. But then they were very impressed. I was impressed, and we did a deal very soon. It went very smoothly, and yeah, just before September 11th in July, I sold my business. So I was also very lucky because, of course, September 11th had a huge impact also on my business. Yeah, I could also, of course, navigate the business through that period. Yeah, I also, as a result, had some financial independence and was able to learn a lot from the next phase without doing it completely on my own.
What made you decide to sell it instead of to grow it, to increase the management team, to make it into a more bureaucratic, I guess, bureaucratic form? Because many of the entrepreneurs who are listening to this are at a similar point. You scale your business and then what?
Yeah, it's a mixture. I think it was just my first business, so I was also not that experienced. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
And I had the right people around me. But the offer was so good that it was life-changing. And it was not only life-changing for me, but also for my team, because many people had also a share in the business. So almost everybody had a share in the business. So, and then you also feel good. That's not only life-changing for you, but and perhaps less life-changing for the rest of the team, but still very considerable. What I didn't express to the outside world, that I was on the edge of that it was really becoming too much. And if it becomes too much, then you don't have the freedom in your head anymore, to think what you're going to do next. And there was just in that period that it was all a bit too much. Also, the private and business came together in a way that I thought, oh, how am I going to handle this?
Mm-hmm.
So it was for me also at that moment, and luckily I didn't have that in other, when I sold later on the business, it was not the case at all. But at that moment, it was also a life savior almost,
Yes,
to
so
be
it was
honest.
transformative in many ways.
Transformative. Yeah, yeah. And
Both
it was
financial
also,
and
it was
personally.
absolutely the right thing to do. And I love this stage until 100 or 200 people. And always when it becomes bigger, then I find it too many things you need to organize and too many people you need to talk to, and you cannot be as entrepreneurial anymore. And what you need to do is, of course, and some people do that very well, also businesses I have invested in, that they put very professional management in place and they keep the entrepreneurial role. And that's what you need to do, of course, if because you are good at a thing, you enjoy a certain thing, and a lot of things which need a completely different approach.
More management approach,
Yeah,
processes,
yeah,
hierarchy.
yeah. So I know how to advise others to do it.
But also, you're very clear about who you are and where your superpower is, which is to build businesses to
Yeah.
100, 200, and then to hand it over to someone else.
And even
At
with
that time, it was a hard lesson, but now you know it's part of your DNA.
absolutely, yeah.
So what happened after that? Because you were free.
I was free, and so I took first of all a break. which is, first of all, of course, I did a transition period of 1 year, 1.5 years. Got a lot of responsibility, which was very interesting, and I learned a lot. Had to integrate all kinds of businesses, was working internationally. Then after that, I had a break, which I truly enjoyed. It's also very interesting that if you are so much always in the center of activities and you suddenly are not, then it feels awkward, and it's not natural, at least for me. So I was very happy that we could make plans to do something completely different. And then we moved with the family to Hungary, where my roots are. And my adventurous husband also wanted to go, which was great. And then I learned half a year Hungarian because I wanted to learn fluently Hungarian. And then I was looking at starting a business again. And I looked at all kinds of different businesses, but still I'm most passionate about people businesses. And that's what I know. And in a country you don't know anybody and you have no network, and why not do what you love? A bit different, but still. And then in Hungary, I built a business which became the market leader in Hungary. So that was also great fun.
Business.
What? Also recruitment business, yes.
But
yeah.
not only lawyers.
Not only lawyers, much broader. So we also really competing with the bigger companies like Adecco and Randstad and Manpower. And when I started the business, I said I want to be a market leader within 5 years.
Yes.
Everybody said you are crazy. It's never going to happen. But just to build towards that, and we became the market leader, Profi Power. So.
How did you do that? What lessons did you learn about becoming a market leader? It's just having the vision and the determination. This is what I'm going to do. I already heard, build a team from people you like and want to be around.
Yeah. So there again, I had a fantastic team. Yes. So as a start, I just put an advertisement who is willing to build a business with me, in the recruitment business. So not a standard advertisement. I got many applicants, I think 50 or so, which is a lot if nobody knows you and you have a new name, which a name which doesn't even sound that great.
This was around 2004, I guess, something like that.
Yeah, 2005. Yeah. 2005, and I spoke to everybody extensively, so all the 50, wow. And that was my first. I really got a good sense of what is happening in the Hungarian market, but I also had some really good connections as a result of that, and treated everybody, of course, with respect, and also tried to give something of my own knowledge away, because the market was behind, what I'm used to, and hired 2 of the 50. And that was the start of the business. I was also lucky with the economic circumstances, because Hungary was on the rise. Yep. Everybody was positive. A lot of international companies started their BPO centers there. There were a lot of expats were managing these businesses through the school or through. I was also in the Dutch Chamber of Commerce, so you meet a lot of people who trust you again, because you have this international background. Yes. So then I was able to build a business which was indeed beyond my own expectations. Also because of lucky circumstances in the market, to be honest, together with a very nice team. Yes,
but there's lucky circumstances and there is the ability to exploit it. And you became market leader also within a very short period of time.
Also 5 years, yeah.
And how big was the company then?
The company was also around 100 or 120 people, but then we had the financial crisis which hit us.
2008?
2008. So I have managed through 2 crises, which is extremely painful because you have to downsize your team in a people's business, and if your demand is going away from one day to another with 60%, then you need to do something, because otherwise you will not be in business for very long. And I find this always the most difficult part in the entrepreneurial journey. On the other hand, if you are in time and you see this coming, and you're one of the first who is letting go of people respectfully, then those people are have an easier job to find something else. And if you have a good reputation and people are really well trained, then it's also not so difficult for people to find a job. Luckily, a lot were also, but it was very difficult because you have a fantastic business, everything going fine, you have these fantastic outings as a team, and suddenly you have to cut, even on the coffee. We had expensive coffee, and I realized that I spent on the coffee as much as one full-time employee. Yeah, then you have to cut the coffee and not the employee. So it's so stupid things you need to suddenly have to think about everything.
What was because it is very hard. If you cut the business, you think of all the families behind the people you are employing or then not employing anymore as well. It has such a systemic effect.
Yeah.
Such an emotional thing. So what did you really learn from that period? Because you had many goodbyes to say.
Well, I think it's very important to still say goodbye to people officially, properly.
Personally as well.
Personally as a team.
How did you do that?
Well, first of all, I thought it was not a good idea because it was so painful for everybody. Then people started organizing goodbyes
informally,
which I thought I found even more painful. And then I said, well, we need to do this and we need to recognize what is happening. And this is one thing. And, also helping people out if they could really not manage it, or making sure that you get good references. It was a very talented pool. So just make sure that you help people to get assignments at your clients, even if it costs your own business.
Yes.
So doing things out of the ordinary. And I must say, we have still come together sometimes, and it's still very, very special. So
the people who leave are your ambassadors as well.
Yeah, they're also your ambassador. So it's.
So we're living 2008, 2011.
Yeah, so that was a survival period, and then, but also, also what do you also do is not only cut, at the lowest, the starter level, but also at the management level. So that's very important. So
make it fair.
Make it fair. And I was then running the business with a colleague of mine and my brother. And my brother left. So we discussed, we need to do something. And one of us needs to leave. And if you give that example, and people accept it also more, that is not, and even if you have shares or more shares or less shares or whatever, if you do that, then at least you give the right example, not only to protect your closest friends and the management layer.
I think that's very important. So I'm presuming that you then started something else.
Yeah, no, because I just needed to go through this phase, this very down phase. And with my colleague, we visited every week clients, even if they didn't have any job, any work for us, just to keep the contact.
Yes.
So we managed to have a good business out of the crisis again. But then it was almost 7 years, of course. And then I thought, well, let's do something with this. And because 7 years ditch. And also, if you feel you're repeating things, towards your colleagues or towards your clients, and you're getting bored with yourself, then you know exactly that you need to move on. And then the Randstad was also a player in the market. And I decided, and I was always on good terms with them. It was not the best moment to sell, because of course you are out of a crisis, you're not so big and not so profitable as you used to be. But I thought for everybody's well-being, including my own, I'm just selling this business. It's a very good, solid business. And we had a huge tender for a big factory, and I thought also, if I join up forces with Randstad, then we might be able to, have a great business, and that was the case. So I sold to Randstad, also had an earn-out for a year, got this huge project in, which was fantastic for the business, and left the business in great spirit, and still the largest recruitment agency in Hungary. which is also great, because if your business continues, then you leave also a legacy behind, which is part of that.
And you went back to Holland after that?
I never went back because I always stayed in Hungary. But I said to Randstad, listen, you need to innovate. You need to be much more technology savvy. You need to see. You need to look outside of your own technology solution. And I was investing as an angel with my own money. And I said, why don't you start an innovation fund where you invest worldwide in companies which are innovating in your space? You can partner with them. You can make perhaps a good return if the investment is good. You can showcase them to your clients. And they thought it was a great idea. And then, they gave me and a French partner 50 million to invest in Europe and the US. And then that's how my investment journey started. I did that for 10 years with incredible pressure, traveled a lot to the US, made a lot of investments in the US and in Europe, learned about large corporates, learned about what makes them tick, and did well, hopefully, for all the startups we invested in.
I guess a lot of the people listening would like to hear, what do you look for as an investment officer? So there are many startups, and then you have to choose.
Well, the main thing is always the founders. It's always and the team. So we prefer not to invest in one per person. It should always be a team, so at least 2 or 3. You look at what they are capable of and whether it's chemistry, and it comes back to similar traits I mentioned when I hired people in the beginning of today. Are they resilient? There's also a fantastic podcast from Andries Horowitz on this. Do they have an edge? Are they standing their own ground? Don't they, move with every trend, every wind, every investor? Are they saying, no, I don't agree? So really, it's about, do they really have a vision how to build a big business? Because in venture capital, you can only build a big business because otherwise investors are not making a return. And in my case now, is it also really impact driven? So do they have an authentic impact drive? Then, of course, they say all kinds of things about the market, about product market fit, about competition. And that we need to research ourselves, whether we also think there is a product market fit, whether the competition is much ahead of or behind, and whether the market is big enough.
So when you said it always starts with founders and team, this is kind of the leitmotif from the beginning in your career, I think.
Yeah.
When you look at that, there must be an X factor. I once tried to write an article on what is the X factor of leadership, because you can read a lot of books and there's lots of competency profiles, but it's not that. It's something different. What is it according to you?
It's just an enormous drive. I think also, it also depends on the team, because one of the founders should have some security. So they need to be secure in themselves. They have to have self-confidence. So I'm looking always for self-confidence in one of the founders. Not everybody needs to have. So if you don't have self-confidence, also okay, because it can generate enormous drive. But still, one of the team members should be there and say, listen, guys, we will get there. No worries. I think the X factor, indeed, I once heard from a very famous other investor, an American investor with whom I was on the board, that he looks only at one thing, is can the founder raise money? Which is interesting because it has to do, can you tell in a simple way what you are doing? Can you sell yourself? Can you sell your company? Because you would need to be really good at it, because you are a startup and nobody's going to pay attention to you if you cannot do that.
Yeah.
So if you have a brilliant idea and you are in your room at home and you don't dare to do that and you feel rejected every time, that's why I'm talking about confidence,
Yes.
and you feel rejected every time somebody says no to you, that's the problem. And in my case, for example, if I believe in something, I have no problem to explain this. And if somebody says no for the right reasons, I think, oh, well, pity for them, not for me. You know, it's a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's an edge of narcissism in that kind.
Yes, perhaps.
You need to believe that you are maybe not the only one, but that absolutely people need you to do this.
Yeah, but also on the vulnerability side, I think that you need to know very well that you cannot do everything on your own, that you need other people for that you have incredible weaknesses, because entrepreneurs have incredible weaknesses, much more than all-round people at corporates. They have incredible weaknesses. And if you are aware of those, and you can make jokes about this, and you can source people around you who compensate those weaknesses, and I think that makes a huge difference. Then you become even more successful.
So we're almost at your last adventure.
Yes. Yeah, I really wanted to make an impact. So I thought I've always concentrated on making a living, on being very commercially active, on being the best, on being the first, which is also very tiring and also not always pleasant for your surroundings. And I thought, what can I do for the world? Which makes a difference. That's why I love this impact investing at Rubio Impact Ventures right now, because we concentrate on what can we do for the climate and what can we do for people, so that people don't stay behind, also not in the climate transition, but also in general. How can we make sure that the huge difference between those who have and don't have can be bridged, and how can you use technology to bridge that enormous gap with education, with job opportunities, with well-being. Yeah, and I just found my purpose and have the energy, to put 24/7 in this project. It's not a project; it's a huge, much more than a project. It's a highly successful venture capital firm, and I'm one of the partners.
So you invest in businesses who create impact. So either on the climate area or on the have not area, education.
Education, job, but also mental well-being, physical well-being, financial well-being, and we are investing in companies. We set targets, what kind of impact we expect, and of course we set that together with the startup. So what kind of impact can you make? And then of course we also look at systemic impact. Can it be on long term also systemic? And what is the additionality of that specific company? And can we also make a return? We want to make a healthy return, but we don't want to make top quartile returns. We think that you need to take a step back, and if you are catering for the underserved, automatically your business plan is a bit less attractive than if you cater only for those who have.
Yes.
But you can have very good business plans and business ideas for a whole group of people and still have built very interesting businesses, have healthy returns, but not top quartile.
So I'm understanding that this is your purpose in you've come through a circle.
Yeah.
From legal and now social impact is what you're aiming for. But I'm hearing in all those businesses that you take care of the foundation of the money, the return on investment, but that your real occupation is really social.
Yeah, the people.
And has always been the people.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah.
And so I'm assuming that now you found a great team again.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing is that this work is a bit more financial even than my other businesses. So you need also people with very strong financial skills and very strong analyzing skills, which is all. But then even if you have that skills, I'm very strongly looking for also strong people skills if we hire people, because we need to communicate with, the whole with other investors, with the founders. And it's about trust. Do they trust you? Do they trust because you are on board for 5 or 10 years as an investor? Do they trust you will do the right thing? Do they trust you being a good partner and trying to help them with their business? Will you have fun, during these 5 or 10 years? And then you need to hire people who can create that trust.
Yes. Yes, it reminds me, but one of my next guests is called Bram Govaerts, and he is one of the stars in the book Social Innovation, Social Design. So again, I'll try to hook you up in that. But
Nice.
what I'm learning about you, and we've known each other quite a while, but I hadn't heard the subsequent steps you've taken, but it seems quite logical to me. And there's a couple of things you've said which really, stick with me. It's this idea of you need to work with the people you like. It sounds really simple, but people look for partnerships more based on a business or on a are we complementary in making money? Then but it's really, can I work with this person for 5-10 years? Because if you set up a business, as you said, it's a 24-hour thing.
Yeah.
Certainly the first few years.
Yeah, I've always also invested a lot of private time, in my colleagues, for example, invited them at home, always doing offsites at my home, and to get to know each other privately. As a result, if you're so busy with your work, you cannot spend all that time with friends. Your colleagues very often overlap, have also a very big friendship factor.
Yes.
The only difficult thing is that if you move on, and I've done that quite often, that you lose also the friendship you have built. But you
Yes.
put so much energy into it, and it's worth it, absolutely. But still, with real friends you have for life, and you know that if you build businesses and build these friendships, there are only a few who will stick with you.
Yes.
But it's okay. I mean, you cannot stay. If I would stay friends with everybody, it'd be impossible.
What I'm also really picking up is this know yourself factor, because I think you're crystal clear about what you're good at, but also what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So you're really good in building the business to 100, 200, and then really other people need to take over with different competencies to give you the freedom you want. And what I'm also hearing is that you not only share the losses, but also the gains, quite literally the financial gains with your teams. So
Yeah.
I picked up that in most of the teams you build, everyone is a shareholder.
All the teams I built. I'm a strong believer.
Yeah.
That you need to, and the interesting thing is that you can give it completely away, as a kind of employee benefit. And this is more, that's more happening always in venture capital, is that also you're co-investing. So you really small tickets, but still your team is co-investing in the investments we are making as a firm.
Yes.
I think that's also very good because, you can also take it for granted, that somebody gives you something. But if you small amount of your financial income you give and you invest really, then you start realizing what it is to really invest your own money, and you follow also the investments in a very different way.
Yes, to risk that. I always say in my kind of team coaching, what can you do together that you can't do alone? That's where you invest.
Yeah.
Together. That's where you share the risks, but also the triumphs of that. Lastly, is there anything you'd like to pass on to people who are going to start their own business now? Because many of the young people today actually don't have the same that you and I had, which is we don't only want to be in that set structure. We want to build our own structures. What would you advise them to do? Or do you have wise words to share?
I think, and I have many conversations also with my own children, but also the friends of my children, and also so many. And I see that generation is much more purpose driven. I would say almost too much. A business, not all businesses have this incredible mission which you want to die for almost, I would say. Huh? And don't underestimate what you can add on a day-to-day simple way to being constructive to your colleagues, to try to do your best for a client, to come up with a good idea. And that can be in any business. And if you set, your goals so high, it should be very intelligent work. It should be, very purpose-driven. My manager should be talking to me every day, or my performance review should be this and this and this. I find the expectations so high, you will always be unhappy. Yes. Because you will never get everything you're looking for. More think, what can I give, instead of what do I think I need to receive?
Yes.
And by giving, just very simple, you will grow and you will experience your boundaries and you will see what you can add.
Thank you, Ilonka. Thank you for this conversation, and I'm looking forward to many other meetings in the future.
Thank you so much, Sari.